The miter saw. It's one of the most useful tools in the entire array of power tools. A versatile cutting machine used where tight joints, precise angles, and fine finishing work is required. Chances are, if you're serious about woodworking, you've become very familiar with miter saws and what a valuable asset they can be in the shop or on the job. Today, we're going to take a look at miter saws from the most important angle, the angle of safety. With powerful motors and spinning blades that can cut through the toughest building material, lumber, hardwoods, and trim. And when recommended in the tool's instruction manual, aluminum or other non-ferrous materials, improper use of miter saws can cause serious injury. With a blade tip spinning up to 140 miles per hour, it takes only a split second to change the course of your life forever. Fortunately, miter saw accidents can be avoided if you're careful and are well prepared. Being prepared means paying close attention to the message delivered in this video, carefully reading and following important warnings and instructions contained in the instruction manual, reading and observing the warning labels on the equipment, and using good common sense. It's important to note that this presentation by itself is not meant to replace the vital information provided by the manufacturer with the product. It's critical that you completely read and understand the manufacturer's instruction manual, safety rules, and warnings before using the miter saw, and refer to them periodically as needed to brush up on your product and safety knowledge. All power tools manufactured by PTI members are manufactured in accordance with national recognized safety standards. You should always look for a mark of safety from Underwriters Laboratories, signified by UL, Canadian Standards Association, signified by CSA, or other nationally recognized testing laboratories when purchasing a miter saw or other electric power tool. The Power Tool Institute is committed to promoting the safe and proper operation of power tools. This video is one of a series of videos PTI has produced on the safe operation of electric power tools. But before we zero in on miter saw safety, it's important to review some basic safety information that relates to power tools of any kind. General safety instructions are covered in PTI's video entitled Power Tool Safety, It's in Your Hands. Please view this video before operating any power tool. It provides instructions on keeping your work area safe, electrical safety, developing good personal work habits, and proper tool use and care. Now, let's focus on the miter saw, where we'll look at safety from every angle. A miter saw is primarily intended to cut wood, but when recommended in the specific tool's instruction manual, can cut other materials like non-ferrous metals such as aluminum, wood flooring, or laminated wood products. When cutting materials other than wood, use a saw blade appropriate for the material. Do not use the saw to cut other material including magnesium, steel, brick, tile, iron, or similar materials. Cutting steel and iron on a miter saw results in excessive sparking and will damage the guards and may overload the motor. When using a miter saw, stability is one of the keys to safety. Be certain to secure the saw on a level, firm work surface before using. This reduces the risk of the miter saw becoming unstable and tipping. Before you start cutting, it's important to plan your work. Get rid of debris and check the area around you for visibility and to ensure proper foot stability and balance. Clear away all tools, wood, scraps, and other items both in front of and behind the fence. The only thing that should be on the miter saw table is the workpiece, period. Make sure you have adequate support accessories, such as clamps, tables, roller stands, sawhorses, and table extensions to accommodate workpieces longer than the saw's tabletop. Workpieces longer than the miter saw table can tip if not securely supported and clamped. If the cutoff piece or workpiece tips, there are some things that can happen that pose hazard to the operator. It can lift the lower guard, or be thrown by the blade or bind the blade. Always keep your hand a safe distance away from the saw blade, in accordance with the instruction manual and markings on the saw. Keep your hands away from the sides of the blade. If supporting the workpiece by hand, you must always keep your hand outside of the marked no-hand zone on either side of the saw blade. or as recommended in the instruction manual for your miter saw. Do not use this saw to cut pieces that are too small to be securely clamped or held by hand safely. If your hand is placed too close to the saw blade, there is an increased risk of injury from blade contact. Remember, the tip of the blade is spinning at up to 140 miles an hour and can make dangerous projectiles out of any loose objects. If you apply uneven or excessive force, you may slip into the blade. Do not freehand. Support part of your work-holding hand on the fence or table. This will prevent your hand from moving toward the blade if the workpiece should move during the cut. Do not use another person as a substitute for a table extension or as additional support. Unstable support for the workpiece can cause the blade to bind or the workpiece to shift during the cutting operation, creating a hazardous situation. The guard system on the miter saw was put there for a reason, to help keep your hands away from the spinning blade. There is no reason to ever tamper with the guard system. It's plainly an invitation to disaster. Make sure your guard system is not damaged and is working properly. In cutting with a miter saw, there is clearly a hazard zone to avoid. If avoided, you'll greatly reduce your chances for injury. The minimum no-hand zone is a distance of 4 inches from the blade, but check your operating guide for your miter saw's no-hand zone. No-hand zone for straight cuts. No-hand zone for right-side miter cuts. No-hand zone for left-side miter cuts. No-hand zone for bevel miter cuts. Here are several points crucial to safe miter saw operation. First, the proximity of the spinning saw blade to your hand may not be obvious throughout the entire range of the saw's cutting path. You can be seriously injured if your hand is in the path of the cut. Always keep hands out of the path of the blade. For example, never place your hand or fingers in the no-hand zone. They may appear to be a safe distance away from the blade when the blade is up at the beginning of the cut, but as the cut is completed and the blade is down, your hand or fingers may end up in the path of the blade. The second example is to never cross your hand over the intended line of cutting. Supporting the workpiece cross-handed, such as holding the right side of the workpiece with your left hand, is very dangerous and can result in an amputation. As the blade is descending to complete the cut, the portion of the blade closest to you can cut into your forearm. These examples are especially true when cutting sharp miter and compound angles. Now, let's look at cutting with the miter saw. There are different styles of miter saws. They are used for different types of cuts, including miter cuts. Blade is perpendicular to the table, but can be set to miter right or left. Bevel cuts, cutting operation made with the blade at any angle other than 90 degrees to the table. Compound cuts, combination of miter and bevel. In addition, some miter saws can slide to push the blade along the rails. This affords a longer crosscut. The hazard zone changes depending on the type of cut. There are some basic safety rules which apply to all 3 types. Check the operation of the saw guard and brake to make sure they are not damaged and are functioning properly. Before turning on the saw, make a dry run without and with the workpiece in place. This will assist in projecting the path of the blade. Then, adjust the workpiece and clamp or secure the workpiece parallel to and against the fence before turning on the saw. The clamp must not interfere with the operation of the lower guard in any type of cut with the miter saw. Securely hold the piece outside of the no-hand zone or clamp the piece to the miter saw. Turn on the saw and let the blade reach full speed before contacting the workpiece. This will help prevent the blade from grabbing the workpiece. After completing the cut, release the trigger and wait for the blade to stop before returning the saw to its rest position or removing or adjusting the workpiece. Do not chop or quick cut the piece, as this may cause the cutoff piece to be thrown from the miter saw or become caught by the blade and jam into the upper guard. Do not feed the workpiece into the blade or cut freehand in any way. The workpiece must be stationary and securely held or clamped to the table and fence. Never use a miter saw for freehand notching. The cutoff piece must not be jammed or bound in any way against the spinning saw blade. If confined, the workpiece could get wedged against the blade and be thrown violently. This is particularly important when using a length stop. And finally, if the workpiece or blade becomes jammed or bogged down, turn the miter saw off by releasing the switch. Wait for all moving parts to stop and disconnect the plug from the power source and/or remove the battery pack. Then, work the jammed material free. By continuing to cut with the jammed workpiece, you could lose control of the workpiece or damage the miter saw. Now, if you're using slide action cutting, first pull the saw head assembly away from the fence until the blade clears the workpiece, or to its maximum extension if the blade cannot clear the workpiece. The workpiece should not extend further than the maximum cutting range of the saw. Confirm that the lower guard does not obstruct the sliding motion of the saw before attempting slide cutting. Make certain a clamp, if used, does not interfere with the guard and head assembly. Second, turn the saw on and wait until the blade attains full speed. Then lower the saw and push it through the workpiece. Do not attempt pull cutting. Pull cutting may cause the blade to kick back unexpectedly, driving the blade towards the operator. For plunge action cutting with the slide compound miter saw, slide the head assembly towards the rear as far as it will go and tighten the slide lock. Then, turn the saw on and wait until the blade attains full speed and lower the head assembly to make the cut. Warning: if you fail to tighten the slide lock, it may cause unexpected kickback of the blade, causing possible serious personal injury. Now, there are some special safety precautions for cutting bowed, round, or irregularly shaped items. When cutting an irregularly shaped workpiece, carefully plan your work so it will not slip, twist, rock, or pinch the blade and be torn from your hand. An irregular shaped workpiece must lie flat against a fence or the table along the intended line of the cut, or be held by a fixture that will not permit it to twist or slip while being cut. If the workpiece is bowed or curved, clamp it with the outside bowed face toward the fence. Always make certain that there is no gap between the workpiece and the fence, and between the workpiece and the table along the line of the cut. Bent or warped workpieces can twist or rock and may cause binding on the spinning saw blade while cutting. Rods may roll while being cut, particularly when cutting angles, causing the blade to bite and pull the work with your hand toward the blade. For round materials such as dowel rods or tubing, always use a clamp or a fixture designed to clamp the workpiece firmly against the fence and table. Be extremely careful after the cut. Blade breaking action of the saw may cause the saw head to jerk downward. Always be ready for this reaction when making an incomplete cut or when releasing the switch before the head is completely in the down position. Above all, remember this: reaching under a coasting blade is very hazardous and should never be attempted. If you follow the basic safety procedures outlined in this video and in the manufacturer's instruction manual and product warning labels, you'll get maximum performance from your miter saw and reduce the possibility of a terrible accident with lifelong consequences. If you have used the miter saw before, but not in some time, it's a good idea to watch this video again and reread the instruction manual and product warning labels to refresh yourself on the proper use of this very useful member of the Power Tool family. The Power Tool Institute and its members are doing everything possible to assure your safety. That's why we produce this and other videos and safety materials. Remember, it takes only a split second to change the course of your life forever. Your ultimate safety is up to you. Being careful and well prepared will help assure success and satisfaction in all your jobs and projects.